And that brings me to the next form of equipment I'm going to talk about, which is cables, which I personally, in my professional opinion, think is the best all-around form of equipment. Like if you had to do most of your workouts using only one type of equipment, I think the cables would be the best choice. And their first pro is that they are very ergonomical unless used improperly. Okay, because of the fact that you have the freedom to pull or push any which way you want, that gives you the ability to use these in the most ergonomical fashion. Which brings me to number 2, which is that they give you the ability to pull or push from any angle, and varying the angles from which you are targeting your muscles is key to hypertrophy. All right, so that makes cables a very significant piece of equipment for hypertrophy training. Pro number 3 is that you can change your grips. You have a variety of grips that you can use, and varying grips is important because you can then make your grip as ergonomical as possible, and changing up your grips is important in hypertrophy training, since every time you change your grip you are working your muscle a little bit differently. The next pro is that they are great for optimizing resistance curves. So whereas if you are doing a barbell curl standing, you're only using gravity for your resistance, so the resistance curve is such that you're having no resistance here or here, and you're only getting full resistance here. So now if you're using a cable, you aren't using gravity for your resistance. So you could take a step back from where that cable's pulling from. So instead of it pulling down, it's pulling like that. So now all of a sudden you're getting more resistance here, right? You get full resistance here, and you still have some resistance here, so that at the top, that cable is still pulling on this, so that you actually can get an isometric contraction at the top that you wouldn't be getting with a free weight. All right, so you can optimize your resistance curve using cables, which is another reason why they are a great form of equipment. And the last pro is that they are optimal for any rep range. You can do anything from high rep training for shredding to heavy low rep training for strength. The cables are just such an all-around great piece of equipment. And these are the reasons why I think they are the best piece of equipment in the gym. But however, they are not without their cons. The first of which is that, like with the machines, the weight indicated is not the actual weight you're getting. So if you can curl 100 pounds on a cable, that doesn't mean you can curl 100 pounds on a barbell. Also, number 2, like with machines, not all cable machines are created equal. So you can't switch from one cable rack to another and have the weight translate unless it's the exact same rack. And this can be a real pain in the ass, because once you get used to doing your exercises on one cable rack and doing progressive overload, if you are at the gym and you need to do that exercise and someone's on that cable rack, you cannot just go to another cable rack. All right. One time I used to attend this old powerhouse gym, and they had 4 cable frames there, but each one was different. So once I started doing certain exercises on one cable frame, if someone was using that, I couldn't use any of the other 3, right? And I'd ask them to work in, and they'd say, well, why don't you go use one of the other frames? You know, it's like, I can't, I'm married to this one, right? So some people who are not serious about training will say that to you and wonder why you're not just going to use a different machine, right? And that's just something you're going to have to deal with. You're going to have to deal with waiting to use a cable rack that you are then married to. And then lastly, sometimes you may need a certain grip, and it is nowhere to be found. And you have to look all over the gym for it, or wait for someone who's using it to be done with it. And again, this can interfere with the speed and intensity of your workout, and you end up having to, wait to do your exercise. Okay, and if you want a cardio component, that's certainly going to be taking away from that cardio component. But of all of the pros and cons between the different types of equipment that I'm talking about, I feel as though cables are the ones that have the best pro to con ratio, and that the pros greatly outweigh the cons here more than any other piece of equipment.